Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. We begin tonight in Edmonton, where the Pope delivered Mass to tens of thousands of followers at the Commonwealth Stadium. Our Tina House joins us now.
We're now on day 2 of the tour of Pope Francis here in Edmonton, Alberta, and we're currently at the Commonwealth Stadium, as currently there's a Mass going on here to close to 65,000 people. There's a lot of orange shirts in the crowd representing Every Child Matters. We had a chance to sit down and talk with a couple of survivors from across Canada that traveled here to see the Pope.
It's nice to be here to see the Pope. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
In a way, it's they say it's about forgiving, forgiving, and learn from the past and moving forward and basically live life.
I heard he was apologize. That's why I came down. I like to see him in person.
This is what I wrote to my people. I'm going to read it. After all these years, over 63 years ago, I went to residential school to Inuvik and Chesterfield Inlet, and every time they mentioned residential school, I would not be myself and get really emotional. I'm very glad that I went to see the Pope. After he spoke, all of my anger went out of my body and ease with myself. Like something went out of my body, and what he said when he apologized. And when I look at him, he's really old and I feel so sorry for him. I know he's really hurting, and I'm also hurting for residential school. But my ancestors taught me never to hate a person.
Soon we'll be boarding a bus heading to Lake St. Anne, as Pope Francis is expected to go there to meet people that have traveled there for the annual pilgrimage. We'll get more for you tomorrow on APTN National News. Back to you.
Thanks, Tina. On the first day of a week-long penitential pilgrimage, Pope Francis begged for forgiveness and offered an apology in the treatment of Indigenous children in residential schools. Here again is APTN's Tina House in Edmonton with the story.
The day began with a somber visit to the cemetery at the Musqueam First Nation by Pope Francis. While there, he says he had some time to reflect on what took place at the former residential school that once stood here, and offered a silent prayer for those that never made it home. Over at the Arbor, the official event began with a grand entry from chiefs, leaders, and residential school survivors. The procession also included a long red banner with the names of over 4,120 children who never came home from residential schools. Former Truth and Reconciliation Commissioner, Grand Chief Wilton Littlechild, made the opening remarks.
During the recent visit to your home at the Vatican by a delegation of Indigenous survivors, elders, knowledge keepers, and youth, you also heard of the abuses so many of us have suffered at this and other residential schools. During our time with you, it was clear to us all that you listened deeply and with great compassion to the testimonies that told of the way our languages were suppressed, our culture taken from us.
For many here, the pain is still evident on their faces as the Pope addressed the crowd.
Estoy aquí en esta tierra que junto a una memoria antigua
Today, I am here in this land that, along with its ancient memories, preserves the scars of still open wounds. I am here because the first step of my penitential pilgrimage among you is that of again asking forgiveness, of telling you once more that I am deeply sorry sorry for the ways in which, regrettably, many Christians supported the colonizing mentality of the powers that oppressed the Indigenous peoples.
Ron Beardy from the Garden Hill First Nations in Manitoba was very emotional after hearing him speak.
As a residential school survivor myself, and I've carried that for a long time, and it's very hard. I got emotional, especially when I thought about the little ones that never made it home, that had their unmarked graves. Those little babies and little boys that did not return to their mummies and daddies.
But for National Chief of the AFN, Roseanne Archibald, she says more work needs to be done.
He didn't address the doctrine of discovery. We've been asking for the revoking of the doctrine of discovery since the beginning of this journey, and he didn't address it at all.
But for Eileen Clearsky, she says that the horrific legacy of residential school has affected generations of her family, and this visit by the Pope is a new beginning in her healing.
The legacy of residential school has had a huge impact on our families, and we're suffering, and we need to heal through that process now with the Pope acknowledging. And now I was so happy that he actually apologized and is looking forward to the future for all First Nations people and children.
Tina House, APTN National News, Musqueam First Nation.
One of the moments from Monday's ceremony with the Pope that continues to gain a lot of attention was the gifting of a headdress to Pope Francis. The headdress was gifted to Pope Francis by residential school survivor Wilton Littlechild, who is also a former commissioner of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The online reaction has been mostly that of outrage. Samson Cree Nation elder and residential school survivor John Cryer explains the meaning of the gift.
The giving of the headdress is honoring a man as the honorary chief and leader in a community. And so in doing that, he's actually adopted him into as one of our leaders in the community. And so it's an honorary, it's an honoring of the man, it's an honoring of the work that he has done, and it also is recognizing from the community that here is a man that belongs into our tribe.
In downtown Winnipeg, many Indigenous people are reflecting on the Pope's visit. Here's some of what they had to say.
I believe it's a rightful thing for him to do for apologizing like that to us, you know, because he did a good thing by doing that.
I feel admiration for him for coming down to make that visit, but due to his health too.
I know not everyone has started their healing journey, everyone's at different levels, but I'm hoping this is that first step, you know. People might be able to start healing inside out.
I think that in the long term, I'm hoping that this will benefit our people in terms of healing. You know, like we need more funding, we need more healing centers.
Johannes Reveille has been called the devil priest by Inuit who survived sexual abuse while at residential schools. In part 2 of our interview with him, he says he has no plans to return to Canada to face a sexual assault charge related to historical abuse. Brittany Guillot and Kathleen Martins bring us this story and a warning that the story may be upsetting and triggering for some viewers.
According to Reveille, he was never contacted by the RCMP, saying he became aware of the allegations when they hit the media. His order, the Oblates of Mary Immaculate, have asked him to return to Canada to face the allegations. But it's clear he has no intention of doing that.
On m'a dit qu'au Canada, chez les Indiens, il y avait depuis quelques années des firmes qui s'étaient spécialisées pour faire des procès. contre des Blancs pour des abus sexuels. Alors ça leur donnait de l'argent et des fois ça rapportait de l'argent à ceux qui accusaient. Et là, il y a plusieurs années, il y avait une très grosse affaire là-bas de ce côté-là, chez les Indiens. Et je pense que les Esquimaux, après, on dit on pourrait faire pareil. J'ai entendu dire aussi que chez les Esquimaux, c'est assez courant, quand ils ont un gros problème, de dire c'est à cause de. Vous connaissez les évangiles? Ça met les points sur les i, je pense.
He hands over a passage from the Bible, the woman caught in adultery. It says only those without sin can pass judgment onto others. He insisted several times throughout the interview that we read it.
Ah oui, parce que ça me sert beaucoup, les gens qui me critiquent, tout ça. Je dis, mais, on est humain comme tout le monde, hein. Donc on peut se laisser aller des fois, vous savez. C'est pas parce qu'on est prêtre qu'on n'a pas des...
Des êtres humains?
Eh oui. On met toujours les prêtres à part. Parce qu'ils prêchent Dieu, prêchent... Finalement, on est des humains comme tout le monde, hein.
According to an arrest warrant issued in February 2021, there is a new charge for Reveille to face. And a Canada-wide warrant was issued for his arrest again. Nunavut RCMP confirmed they applied for a red notice through Interpol. It's used to request law enforcement worldwide to locate and arrest fugitives. And Reveille says he handed over his passport to the Oblates.
Tout ce qui nous appartient, même l'argent, on n'a plus rien ici. C'est tout pris à notre maison provinciale par les Oblats. C'est eux qui gèrent ça. Ils m'ont dit, tu es Canadien, donne-moi ton passeport canadien, on va regarder s'il est à jour ou pas. Je l'ai donné il y a quelques jours à notre responsable, là. Il fallait qu'il le fasse renouveler.
Father Vincent Gruber with the Oblates confirmed Reveille has French and Canadian citizenship. But he says he doesn't know anything about the Oblates renewing his passport. And for Reveille, he says he has no plans to return to Canada.
C'est tellement vieux, c'est un problème qui reste pas dans ma vie. Moi, je me prépare à passer de l'autre côté.
Brittany Guillot, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
So what can be done to compel Reveille to come back to Canada? It's complicated, says a French lawyer. We'll have that story for you tomorrow. This has no doubt been an emotional week already, and those were some heavy stories. If you need support, there is help out there for survivors and others who might need it, including the National Indian Residential School Crisis Line. That number is 1-866-925-4419. Coming up, the search continues near Saskatoon for a missing woman and her son. Stick around. Welcome back. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations is maintaining hope that a key member of their staff and her son will be found safe. Dawn Dumont-Walker is the Executive Operating Officer at the FSIN and has been missing along with her 7-year-old son since Friday night. Around 9 a.m. this morning, Saskatoon police said her vehicle and personal belongings were found just south of Saskatoon. Leanne Sanders has the latest.
We have a lot of family and friends here that are concerned about her, where she is and where Vincent is.
Officials set up a command center at the river, near where Dawn Walker's personal belongings were found on Saturday. RCMP Staff Sergeant Greg Abbott says they're calling in all resources to help in the search.
We have a drone here that's just arrived now. We have police dog service coming.
We have air resources that we're mobilizing, as well as a water search assisting resources. Our RCMP search and rescue team are mobilizing as well.
Friends and co-workers at the FSIN spent a sleepless night trying to find the pair and were visibly distraught at a morning news conference. They had just learned that police had located Walker's vehicle and a blanket at a popular recreation area south of Saskatoon near the river. They also learned that someone had found Walker's purse in the same area on Saturday and turned it in to RCMP. Chief Bobby Cameron says Dawn has worked for them for close to a decade and is diligent in her communication with them and her staff.
With her communication skills, her personality and her attitude was always, it was a daily thing to hear from her or to give her a call. So everyone knew something was wrong. When we didn't hear from her, when her dog was in her house barking, there was dog poop and urine in her house, something was wrong. Her son's iPad was still in the room. Her suitcase and everything was still in the room. She was to leave to the Pope's visit yesterday. So something was wrong.
Treaty Commissioner Mary Culbertson made a plea for people to come forward with any information.
If it wasn't for persistence, we worry, would there have been attention? Would nobody really be looking? Would we be just looking around, driving around all night searching? And it took persistence to have the police by our side all the time, because it's just another call, right? So I'm just begging for anybody, please, if you see Dawn or her little boy, he's just a baby, maybe they went in the river. Please, if you've seen anything, if you've seen them, please let the police know.
Walker is from Okanese Cree Nation in Treaty 4 territory. She has won awards for 3 of her books. She's also written columns for the Saskatoon Star-Phoenix and Eagle Feather News and ran for the Federal Liberal Party in Saskatoon last year. Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Tomorrow, Pope Francis will be in Quebec City, but First Nations have been preparing for his arrival for over a week now. Lindsay Richardson explains.
We're here outside the historic Saint-Anne-de-Beaupré Basilica on the eve of the Pope's visit to Quebec. Now, as First Nations from all over Quebec are gathering here to mark the Feast of St. Anne, normally the end of a 9-day pilgrimage, it's actually marking the beginning of the Pope's 3-day visit. At the same time, a group of survivors and marchers are making the 275-kilometer journey from the Innu community of Mashtoyets here to Quebec City to partake in the commemoration and the Pope's visit. Now, APTN News has a full team here on the ground and is trying to follow all of the different aspects of this visit, and we'll be bringing you the latest as it plays out here on the ground in Quebec City. I'm Lindsay Richardson. Stay tuned to APTN National News.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Our viewer Matt LeMay captured this aerial view with his drone of the Cairn House on Batoche Historical Site. This past weekend was the 50th anniversary of the Back to Batoche Festival. Great picture, Matt. If you want to be featured as our photo of the day, email your shots to share@aptn.ca along with a description and location. Let's take a look now at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 27 for Halifax and Charlottetown. 21 in Kuujjuaq, 18 with rain in Nain. 28 in Montreal, 24 for Chibougamau. 21 with showers in Sault Ste. Marie, 28 in North Bay. 23 and rain in Thunder Bay, showers, and 20 for Sioux Lookout. 10 in Churchill, 14 with rain in God's Lake. 18 in showers in Winnipeg, rain, and 21 in Dauphin. Sun's out and 24 for Saskatoon and North Battleford. 22 and sun for Meadow Lake, 24 in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, 30 for High Level, Peace River, and Grand Prairie. 25 in Edmonton, rain, and 26 in Lethbridge. sunny day, and 27 in Vancouver, 37 for Kamloops. 32 in Prince George, sunny, and 34 in Smithers. 17 in Old Crow, rain, and 20 in Whitehorse. Rain and 22 for Yellowknife, 20 in Norman Wells. 12 in Sax Harbor, 16 for Paulatuck. Sunny and 22 in Chesterfield, 19 in Whale Cove. 9 with rain in Resolute, 7 in showers in Arctic Bay. Many people are working behind the scenes on Pope Francis's trip to Canada, and that includes about 20 Indigenous translators who are working out of the nation's capital to translate the Pope's visit for broadcast into such languages as Cree, Dene, and Mohawk. APTN's Fraser Needham sat down with one of those interpreters.
¿Qué estoy dando de mí? Muchas veces la vida.
You're hearing Henry Pitawanakwat translate the Pope's words in Ojibwe. He says working on the papal tour is no easy task because of some of the painful memories it brings up.
It brought about a lot of triggers. It brought about a lot of issues that I've suppressed in the past.
He is fluent in a number of Indigenous languages, but for the Pope's trip to Canada this week, Pitawanakwat is using Ojibwe for viewers all over the world. He didn't attend residential school, but his mother did.
This apology to me does not mean anything to me. It's only a word in the English language. If action is included, then I will accept the apology. I want some retribution from the Jesuit Society.
Despite his misgivings about the visit, he is participating with the goal of gaining support for Indigenous language revitalization.
I want some help, support, to bring our culture and our language back.
And as difficult as things may get this week, Pitawanakwat says he is grateful he has the support of his colleagues to lean on.
So we've been doing some healing circles, sharing our experiences. It's very important because when you're in a grieving state or when you're traumatized, you always believe it's only you. You want to pull yourself out and go sit in a corner somewhere. You don't realize that you have similar problems as your other co-translators. But once you share it, you bring that closeness in.
In an emailed statement to APTN, Crown Indigenous Relations says the federal government is providing $2 million to translate the Pope's trip into 12 different Indigenous languages. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
That is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. There is much more on the Pope's visits and other stories over on our website. That's aptnnews.ca. Be sure to stick around for an encore presentation of Face to Face. Our guest tonight is Stephanie Scott, the Executive Director of the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. That's up next. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.